I respect Sacramento State's efforts here, but they're kind of crazy.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. It is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, the number one sports podcast network out there. Thank you all, especially my everydayers, for making that the case. Arizona State's portal class is not to be slept on. Washington's schedule, there's a positive similarity for the Huskies that you will hear about on today's show, which is brought to you by our friends over at Mazda. They put that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. Stay tuned for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. Jake Hatch of Locked On BYU Cougars is here to discuss the story in college football today, Jake, and that is Sacramento State's not surprising in terms of outcome because their desire to go FBS is very real. But for those who are unaware of the details, here, I'll cue you into what I'm talking about here. This is a 5-year agreement with the MAC, just the 5 years. They will take no conference media distribution. They will cover the air travel costs of visiting MAC teams and pay 6 of the $18 million entry fee in year one. There's an element to this, Jake. I admire the tenacity, the aggression. I'm a go for it, push the envelope kind of guy. There's a limit to that mindset, though, because, man, this just has bad outcome written all over it, doesn't it, Jake?
Yeah, it does. And my other question is, who's footing the bill for all this, Spencer? Because I have very rarely seen an FCS program like a Sacramento State that apparently is, awash in this much cash. Because you mentioned 6 of the $18 million. They're going to pay $18 million to the MAC just to get to the FBS level, Spencer. That floors me. And oh, by the way, they're going to pay for everybody to travel out to Sacramento to play them. Like, are we the Hawaii of the last 3 decades until they got rid of their travel subsidy program to help the WAC, the Mountain West, go over there and play? Like, this has got a far-reaching effect on college football, and I don't necessarily think it's for the better. Let's just put it that way.
I think they sense what North Dakota State sensed, which is we just want to be in the FBS. Okay. We just want to be out there. But the Sacramento State president has put out some interesting statistics, or what he views as statistics. He seems like a perfectly good guy. He's claiming there's going to be like $975 million of impact in various forms or fashions. Yeah, I don't know either. John Wilner of the San Jose Mercury News just responded to that, said, yeah, almost $1 billion in impact, huh? I'm taking the under. He was talking marketing value, TV visibility, FBS football, increased revenue. They're saying that they're going to pay for it themselves and that it's going to work. I don't know, man. North Dakota State, I think actually might have the money or at least the ability to raise the funds. What is the support system like at Sacramento State to foot all of this? I mean, this is an insane amount of money to go play in the MAC for 5 years.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like, no offense, but is Muncie, Indiana, going to get Sacramento State? I'm just using Muncie as an example. Like, I for the life of me, I do not understand where the deep pockets are coming from for this Sacramento State football program, because it's a football only membership, by the way, Spencer. This is just in football only for 5 years, just to, get to the FBS level. Man, somebody's got some major cash to burn, and there are a lot of current FBS programs, Spencer, that would die to have somebody who's willing to foot conservatively $25-30 million to help a program out like Sacramento State.
I'm going to talk about one of them later on today's show. Arizona State and Kenny Dillingham, who's literally said, does one of you want to be a hero in Tempe? Give me a $20 million check.
Exactly. All he's asking for is $20 million.
He's just looking for 20. Sac State and he's been to the playoff in the last couple of years. It was an 8-game winner last season.
And to your point, North Dakota State has won 10 of the last 15 FCS national championships. They are the bluest of the blue bloods at the FCS level. Like there is nobody that will ever parallel or even match the run of success they had over the past decade and a half. Sacramento State, what have they really been in football? A middling at best Big Sky program? This is nuts to me.
They're on their, I believe, third head coach in their last 3 years.
Yeah.
And that's due to a lot of different factors. But though I understand why Sac State's president said this, which was the MAC wanted us, I know he's got to say that. But think about it like this, Jake. They're paying the conference $18 million. They're going to pay for the teams to fly out and play them, which they would have had to do as an FBS independent anyway, which is why yes, stay in the Big Sky until you have a better financial future than this. But she doesn't actually want to go out with you, Sacramento State. It's just that you offered to take her to a steak dinner for a 5-course meal that had caviar in all 3 of the first courses and black truffle shavings for no reason on the last 2. And she figured, well, at the very least, I'm getting a free meal out of this. I mean, the MAC has got to look at this and go, this is the greatest deal in history. They're going to play football. They're going to pay for our teams to go. And then they're going to give us $18 million and they probably won't even win the league. Like, this is insane.
And the MAC's over there like cha-ching, 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 because I think the MAC fully understands where they stand in kind of the pantheon of where college football is at right now, Spencer. And every one of those programs is thinking, you know what, that just helped out? It helped us actually get some NIL funds or the like to be able to, retain talent or at least maybe attract some extra talent to our programs. Because at the level the MAC competes at, 1 or 2 players that are like star quality players can put you over the top in that league. And to your point, Spencer, that's what Sacramento State is just kind of, hey, you want this money? Here, have it. The MAC's like, thank you. Well, oh, great. Let's do this thing.
I've been hard on Sacramento State in this segment because
you should be. Like,
it's hard to not be. Let me extend an olive branch to the Hornets faithful out there. Many of these similar things could have been said about SMU, who went into the ACC. They are taking I'm pretty sure they're still taking no media rights money. They had so much liquidity. They bought their way in, and they just forced their way into the Power Four and said, here's an offer you can't refuse. Mm-hmm. And they've been to the college football playoff, and they could very well return there in the next couple of heck, they could return there this season. I think they'll be pretty good. Kevin Jennings is there once again with Rhett Lashley. That's the best case scenario, but at the MAC level.
Does Sacramento State have oil money that we're unaware of, Spencer? That might be the answer.
Because,
SMU's got a bunch of oil money. That's what got them.
Yeah.
Does Sacramento State have a bunch of oil barons suddenly that we didn't know about?
I think we're going to find out. Because somebody has got to foot the bill. The money's got to come from somewhere unless you're going to run up a debt like UCLA or Rutgers has done over the last 10 years or so. That feels like where they are headed. It's not that they haven't been good in the Big Sky. It's just that they haven't run the league.
No.
They've been good. They've got playoff wins. They're in a great place playoff-wise at the FCS level. But now you're jumping up to the MAC. And oh, by the way, you're not eligible to win a conference championship or a bowl game until 2028 unless they change the rule, which they should, to be fair. But I don't have the same optimism for the Hornets in the MAC as I do North Dakota State in the Mountain West.
I would agree with you, because here's the thing. I just don't think that these programs are on an equal tier in terms of their readiness to jump up to the FBS level. Yeah, apparently Sacramento State's got cash to burn, because that's very evident by what they're handing over to the MAC to make this move. But in terms of actually competing at this level, Spencer, yeah, the MAC's saying, okay, yeah, we'll take that money, but there's no way. And if Sacramento State wins the league at some point during this 5-year run, congratulations to them. I will happily eat my words. I just don't see them competing anywhere near the level that I think North Dakota State will compete in the Mountain West, because I do think that the Bison are absolutely going to be a force in the Mountain West.
Yeah, and for this year specifically, I'll wrap this segment with this thought. You don't have a spring portal window to bolster your roster. So you are going to go into the season with a bunch of... Now, they've got some players over there for sure. I don't think they're anywhere close to North Dakota State, who's been an FBS program masquerading as an FCS team for a long time. They're prepared to make that jump. Sac State, I don't think, is as ready. The good news for them, they're going into a league that's not as tough as even the new look Mountain West. Yeah. But man, I think there are... If you envision, if we had Doctor Strange in the Time Stone and he flashed forward in time to view all the different possible outcomes, there are a lot more he's coming back with in which he says, yeah, this doesn't work out, than ones where he says, no, this is great. This is going to go really, really well. You're going to love everything that happened here. I don't know. We'll wait to see. I can't wait to see what their schedule looks like. Look, I'm going to watch. I can't not watch, you know?
Okay, here's the thing. Maction in Sacramento on a Tuesday night, it's going to hit like crack. Let's go.
Yep. That's not...
And by the way,
the MAC in Sac.
We're getting okay, here's the thing. We're getting one of the greatest new rivalries. Ball State, Sacramento State. You can do the math.
Jay Catch, locked up BYU Cougars, everybody. We're going to talk about a more normal football situation and a really good one brewing down in Tempe. First, this episode brought to you by our friends at Mazda. This is Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen. And you know what? I'm going to shout out today the administration at Sacramento State University, because the ambition of that department and the holistic thinking they've got to say, now's our moment, here's our chance, let's do whatever it takes. I got to commend them for that, even if I think it's crazy. I respect the audacity, even if I think it's questionable as to whether it will work out. It's doing more than just moving them into a new league. These moments remind us of what it really takes to raise the bar. It's the extra work off the field, which they had a lot of, dialing in every detail, giving it that extra fire, that grit, and that I never quit mentality. Mazda puts that same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there is more to you. This episode also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Have you ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience, it's all in there. So if you're already looking at the NBA standings and thinking, I know how the playoffs are going, the Cavs with James Harden will make it happen. The Pistons will roll in the East. The Thunder will repeat as Western Conference champions. Then place your futures bet now, add the profit boost, and get entered to win a trip to the finals. That is what's on the line here. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future you like and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Arizona State's transfer portal class is wildly slept on right now. Would it surprise you to learn that the Sun Devils possess the number 15 rated transfer portal class nationally, according to 24/7 Sports rankings? Would that surprise you? Probably would a little bit. But you know what? Kenny Dillingham has been very serious and very earnest in his pursuit to quote-unquote activate the Valley. Well, it appears to be working. For those of you that think the recruiting and especially transfer portal world is just all about NIL nowadays, it's not, but it's a factor. Kenny Dillingham has gotten him moving in the right direction. Remember when we weren't sure Kenny Dillingham would stay? When he was kind of a candidate for the Michigan job, when he was playing footsie with answering whether or not he was going to stay in Tempe? I don't think he ever wanted to leave. But he got a little bit more out of the Sun Devils administration. He is so perfect for that job and such an easy guy to root for. So his transfer portal class is headlined, of course, by Cutter Boley, the transfer quarterback from Kentucky. 6'5", decent mobility, huge arm, bit of a project. But you've got Kenny Dillingham and Marcus Arroyo and a very strong track record at quarterback over the last couple of years. And I have to give Marcus Arroyo credit where it's due. I've been critical of him in the past. I didn't think that he was the best hire Kenny Dillingham could have made. It's obviously working out. At the end of last season, Jeff Sims, was winning games for ASU and was at least competent. Sam Levitt's injury might have derailed another trip to the Big 12 championship game. So bringing in Cutter Boley, who's got a lot of upside, some experience as well, there's certainly an exciting component to that move. But there are a couple other things that are noteworthy here. First of all, at the quarterback position, they brought in Mikey Keene from Michigan. He was at Fresno State before that. And until he got hurt in the lead up to last season, might have been Michigan's starting quarterback. Total veteran. This is a winning sort of move. I expect Cutter Boley to be the starter. If Mikey Keene winds up winning the job, I won't be shocked. They're very different. Mikey Keene is not a very big guy. He's on the smaller side, 5'11", 200 pounds. Cutter Boley's on the bigger side. You can't watch tape of Cutter Boley and not look at what he's got. That's just different than everybody else, and that is, of course, the size at 6'5", 220. So that quarterback battle might be more intense than some anticipate. We'll see what happens in spring ball. If Cutter Boley doesn't work out, if he starts making mistakes, you can go to Mikey Keene, who probably knows he's going to battle for playing time. I'm sure he'll see the field this year, but Arizona State has rotated quarterbacks a bit before, often out of necessity. It might be out of necessity again. Maybe Cutter Boley's not ready. So that's the first part that I want to highlight. The second thing, though, Amarion Miller is one of the top wide receivers to hit the portal this cycle. He has been at Colorado the last couple of seasons, 6'2", over 200 pounds. Guy is a proven player in the Big 12 Conference, and he now comes to Arizona State as a part of an elite tandem added to replace the loss of Jordan Tyson. So Arizona State's passing game the last couple of years, at times, I won't say entirely, but at times has felt very Sam Levitt to Jordan Tyson dependent. And Kenny Dillingham, being the sharp coach that he is, has seen that, and some of that's had, some injuries sprinkled in there. He sees that and goes, you know what? I want to have two premier options on the perimeter. Well, insert Amarion Miller, who can be, I believe, a number one go-to wideout in the Big 12 Conference. Then he brings in Reed Harris from Boston College, who's going into his fourth year of college football, off his most productive season to date. This past year went over 600 yards through the air. He's 6'5", 217 pounds. You talk about big targets for a big quarterback to throw the ball to. Everything about Arizona State just feels big going into this year. I think those two weapons are premier options for Cutter Boley or maybe Mikey Keene to throw the ball to. But those are not the only moves I want to talk about on this segment, because there are other additions they've made that are going to play a role. They just aren't going to garner the same sort of attention because they don't play a flashy, stat-driven spot like quarterback or wide receiver. Let's talk about Owen Long, 6'2", 230-pound linebacker from Colorado State. Long last year, if you checked out PFF, graded pretty well. Not great as a pass rusher, perhaps, but around a 70 overall grade. Good, solid player. Did you know that nobody in college football had more tackles than him last year? Nobody. He was playing in the Mountain West. The stacked version of the Mountain West, not the new Mountain West. One of the top group of 5 leagues in the country last year. And, rattled up sorry, let me rephrase that. Racked up is the proper way to say it. 151 tackles. Nobody else had more tackles in the entire country last year. They bring over Marion Winston from Baylor, one-time Oregon transfer. That's a guy that on the edge, I don't think he's a game changer necessarily, but he's the sort of body with proven experience that you want to be able to have as a part of your rotation at the very least if you're going to separate yourself in the edges. I'm not saying he's Romello Height going to Texas Tech. I'm just saying it's a good move. Lyric Rawls at safety coming over from Kansas. Again, not a move that's going to be super flashy, that's going to pop on TV all the time. Jalen Thompson, another edge, a body type that Arizona State, I think they've been looking for a lot of production off the edge since they lost BJ Green a couple years ago. Maybe Jalen Thompson is one of those guys. Maybe he and Amarion Winston wind up being the bookend edge guys for Brian Ward and this Arizona State defense. So Thompson, 6'3", 260 pounds, Michigan State transfer, left the situation that unfolded there in East Lansing, decides to go play with Kenny Dillingham rather than Pat Fitzgerald. That's what I would do as well, at least for now. But there's nothing about playing at Arizona State that sounds unappealing. It just looks like a lot of fun. And oh, by the way, it's really, really warm. So you're talking about a group of receivers that's going to support whichever quarterback is out there, and they've got the quarterback depth they need to go through the season and have plenty of success. And then you bring in defensive transfers to continue what has quietly been a solid unit, not elite necessarily, but quietly very good. Brian Ward's a guy that I think is going to be tough to keep around in Tempe for much longer because he's a really good defensive coordinator. Arizona State fans don't want to hear me say that, so I'll just pretend like I never did. Arizona State, quietly, they're not Texas Tech. They don't have loads and loads of money. They're trying to work to get there. But remember, the last two teams to go to the college football playoff, Joey McGuire's Texas Tech Red Raiders, Kenny Dillingham's Arizona State Sun Devils. Do not sleep on this ASU portal class. You know who else you can sleep on? Another former Pac-12 school. Are my true colors showing? No. Well, okay, maybe just a touch. Washington will be in the same spot they were last year. First, this episode brought to you by Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. They help you reach people who actually fit what you're looking for with skills, experience, and location for what you need. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. Here's a stat that really tells it all. You ready? In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data, worldwide. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Less stress, less time, more results. When you want and need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. If you need to hire, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Will it be playoff time in Seattle, or will they come up just short? Again, Roman Tomashoff of Locked On Huskies is here to discuss that very idea. People very easily forget, Roman, not I, because I am neutral arbiter of all things college football, of course, that Washington was once upon a time in the month of November in control of its own destiny to make the college football playoff. That is a thing that happened for a moment, and then they went to Wisconsin, and it all went up in not in flames, but perhaps it froze.
You could say in flames.
No. I was gonna say it froze. It hit an icicle because the weather was cold and wet and damp. Nothing was flaming that.
But see, it's almost like oil on water kind of thing, where it's like, oh man, like that. See, that's more where my mind was going with this.
Yes, indeed. So we are not discussing Damon Williams drama today. Maybe another day. You know, once May rolls around and there's no news on the recruiting front, we'll bring it back up. For today, we're diving into the Huskies schedule. And I bring up last year, not just to give people context, but Roman, when I look at this Washington schedule, I really think Washington is going to be in the exact same position next year. I don't think they're going undefeated until their final 2 games of the year. I think they're going to win far more than they lose. And Jedd Fisch will have the team, presuming they settle everything with Damon Williams down and the transfer portal pieces mesh as they are supposed to. I think this is one of the more favorable schedules in the Big Ten.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm glad that you said those things. I was going to have you just repeat that because when I say these things over on Locked On Huskies, I get called delusional. No, like that's absolutely how I feel when it comes to this particular schedule, where it shapes up really nice in the non-conference. Obviously, you play 2 Pac-12 schools, Spencer, mind you. And then, of course, RIP. And then you
and welcome back at the same time.
Also very, very true. You open at home against Minnesota. You don't have your first road game until week 5 at USC. And then you just look at the way it shapes up. You miss Michigan. You miss Ohio State. And yeah, you have Indiana and Oregon at home to end the season. But Iowa and Penn State, those games are at home. You have to go to Purdue, to Michigan State. Those trips won't be easy. I'm certainly very interested to see what Michigan State has going on. But as I look at this, I feel like 9-3, 10-2 is somewhere in the ballpark of where this team is going to finish this year.
Yeah, that's where I'd ballpark it right now as well. And of course, they were in that sort of range this past year. But I mean, if not for that, I would have had their record spot on for 2025. They would have been one of those teams for me, but they went out and lost to Wisconsin on the road, which...
Do you have to remind me again? Because that's also...
Yes, I do. Yes, I do, because they let me down in a very big way. It is a huge point of pride for me as host of this show when I can look at a team's schedule and guess right on the money how many regular season wins they will have. And I would have had that with Washington, but they messed it up. But anyway... Still hit the over-under because it was 7.5 last year. Now, you mentioned the 4 straight home games. They're one of the teams that's navigated their way towards just figuring this out. There are teams that start with a gauntlet. Northwestern has a bye in week 2 and then plays 11 straight games. That's real. That's a real thing that they are doing. The Big Ten doesn't like Northwestern and doesn't care about them is kind of the message that their schedule sends. But it's an easy non-conference. It's not one that I approve of because I think everyone should have a Power 4 non-conference opponent. It works out. Then you kind of ease into Big Ten play with a good team, not a great team, but a good team in Minnesota, but you get them at home. And I think the next 2 games, which come 2 weeks before the bye for the second one, I think that is where Washington's season really gets defined, Roman, because you play at USC and host Iowa. These are 2 good programs that were good a year ago. I expect to be good this year. Some people have really high hopes for USC going into this season. They will be in that same conversation of, hey, are they going to make a run to the college football playoff? 1 at home, 1 on the road. If Washington goes 2-0 in those games, buzz is going to be real. If they go 1-1 in those games, you're fine. If they go 0-2, the playoff is done. That's how I see it.
I could agree with you more. Over on Locked On Huskies a couple weeks ago, I talked about 3 games that could define the season. It's those 2 right there because of exactly what you're saying, Spencer. And then it's the end of the month at Nebraska, where let's say you do go 2-0 in those games. And then you have to go to Lincoln on Halloween, which is going to be really interesting. That should be a lot of fun with both those teams coming off a bye, which is the one nice thing I think the Big Ten did in the schedule this year was you have a bye the week before you face a certain team. And they're going to have the bye as well. I think that's a lot of fun compared to last season where Washington played 4 or 5 different teams all coming off byes. So that's just my little 2 cents on that. But I think that stretch, because then immediately after Nebraska, you come home and you play Penn State. And I just think that whole October to early November stretch is going to be where things are decided because you get to Indiana and Oregon, right? Getting Indiana in Seattle is certainly going to be extremely difficult with everything Kurt Cignetti did in the transfer portal. But everything just shapes up so well in a way that it always kind of felt around here in Seattle that things were building for some kind of legitimate push for the playoffs in 2026. And granted, that's going to be a little bit difficult when you're losing Denzel Boston and Jonah Coleman and Carver Willis on offense, and then Chikario Davis and Ephesians Prysock, along with a lot of senior defensive linemen as well. But the way that Jedd Fisch is not just reloaded through the high school ranks and the transfer portal, but with how this sets up and how many of the top teams in the conference you do just get to miss this year, I think is very beneficial for this team in the long run.
I want to go back to that Nebraska game because the road games that are easy to highlight as, boy, find a way to win one somehow, some way, not going to be easy. USC October 3rd, Oregon on November 28th to end the regular season. Those are no-brainer. Like, okay, that's going to be difficult. But I don't know if you want to call it trap game, sleeper game, easy to overlook. Nebraska on October 31st, I bet you're going to have a blackout crowd in Lincoln that day. Now, USC won in that environment last year. It's kind of their version of the whiteout of sorts at Penn State, who, side note, Penn State, such a mystery team to me. I can easily foresee Penn State being a 5-win team, an 8-win team, or a 10-win team. I'm not seeing 11 and 12. I think 10 is the absolute max. I might need to just get together with Seiko and talk about it because I really don't have a strong feel for Penn State right now. So let's put that one aside for the moment. Off a bye in Lincoln, Nebraska was, I think, going to beat USC last year. They were winning, and then Dylan Raiola got hurt, and they had to put the backup in. They've reloaded at quarterback now. I'll have more on that later this week, but I think that game to me is kind of the easy to overlook because Nebraska doesn't have a strong record against top 25 teams since Matt Rule has been there. Because Dylan Raiola is gone, I think the program is actually in a pretty good place. Matt Rule is a good coach playing at home. I think that's one of those underrated games that if the Big Ten were the SEC, people would gas up a little bit more than they otherwise will.
No, I like that a lot. That's kind of exactly how I feel about it. We always know that you're going to get a well-coached, strong defense from Matt Rule. My questions with them lie on the offensive side of the ball, and that's one of the reasons that I'm so just intrigued about what Washington is going to be able to bring to the table this year in year 3 under Jedd Fisch, year 2 under Ryan Walters on the defensive side of the ball, where in year 1, you didn't win any games on the road, and there are several different reasons for that, obviously, but one of the biggest ones was you couldn't defend the run. And then last year, you take a massive step forward in that department. And Ryan Walters is on record as saying back in December, my defenses take a big jump forward in my second year. And jumping up from a top 12 run defense in the nation, I'm curious to see what that might look like for him as he projects that out, obviously. But I think that there's so much talent coming back on that side of the ball. The way that this team can travel on the road this year, you talk about those, oh yeah, that's going to be a really tough environment to win in USC, Nebraska, and Oregon being the 3 hardest ones. With the way Washington's defense just travels, or how most defenses will travel, I should say, since it's certainly not something that's exclusive to UW, I think that is going to be something that will be really overlooked going into the year.
3 straight years, the reigning national champion goes to Husky Stadium. I don't know if that's ever happened before because the last time a conference won 3 straight national championships was probably the SEC and way before I was covering college football. So I don't have that off the top of my head. Is there an expectation, I'll get you out of here on this, is there an expectation at all that for Indiana or Oregon programs that are in the national title conversation going into next year that Washington will win one of those games? Or is it more of we'd like to, but we understand we're not there yet?
I feel like the expectation should shift this season, and it should be you need to go win one of those games because those are the moments that you're looking for from DeMond Williams and from Jedd Fisch in year 3, because in year 1, it's okay. Yeah, this program is torn down to the studs. We get it. You're trying to get over that hump. And then year 2, it's okay. You're beating up on a lot of the teams that you should. You had a nice ranked win at the time against Illinois, but you couldn't get over the hump against the big time teams. Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, obviously being 3 of the 4 losses. So now this year in year 3, there needs to be an expectation of, yes, you need to win at least one of those games.
That's Roman Tomashoff, Locked On Huskies, and that is where we end today's show. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time, and until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.